Welcome to the Roy Morgan Weekly Update. The big news last week was the Reserve Bank deciding to leave interest rates unchanged at 3.85%. A shock decision to many, with an interest rate cut widely expected and predicted by the media and prominent economists. The decision clearly had an impact on consumer confidence, which fell by 2.1 points to 86.5 last week, ending a run of 3 straight weekly increases. The indicators that drove consumer confidence lower this week relate to more negative expectations surrounding the Australian economy, both over the next year and the next 5 years. Consumer confidence is now very much in line with its weekly average so far this year of 86.6. Looking longer term, consumer confidence has now been below the mark of 90 for 163 weeks, stretching back to May 2022, well over 3 years ago. That's a record long run below that level, longer even than recessions in the 1980s or 90s. The Reserve Bank next meets in 4 weeks' time on the second Tuesday of August to once again decide on interest rates. In better news though, ANZ Roy Morgan inflation expectations were little changed this week at 4.9%. Last week it was 5%. This means Australians now expect inflation of 4.9% over each of the next 2 years. This figure has been remarkably consistent this year and averaged 4.8% over the last 4 weeks and 4.8% so far this year. Indeed, the long-term average of inflation expectations over the last 15 years is also 4.8%. Now to employment and unemployment. There's good news for the measure that really matters. Real unemployment in June is 10.4%, down 0.5% on a month ago. So an estimated 1.65 million Australians are unemployed, looking for work. The factor driving this drop in unemployment was a good one: new jobs being created. Overall, employment increased by 208,000 to more than 14.2 million. That's 14.2 million Australians employed. Even better, the big mover was full-time jobs, which increased by 229,000 to over 9.2 million in June. Part-time employment was little changed at just over 5 million. This growth is a welcome change after a workforce contraction just a month earlier. Now remember, the workforce is the combination of employed people and unemployed people. Roy Morgan estimates the size of the workforce in June at almost 15.9 million. 15,887,000 to be exact. That's up 147,000 on just a month ago. Now, despite the good news in June, there is still much work to do. Overall, total unemployment and underemployment, what we call workforce underutilisation, was 20.3% of the workforce in June, estimated at more than 3.2 million people. This is the 7th straight month that total unemployment and underemployment has been above 3 million. Looking forward, the re-elected Albanese government will need to prioritise getting the economy moving again, creating jobs and keeping people in the workforce. This is crucial for productivity. And now to Indonesia. As many of you know, Roy Morgan is the only research company that continuously surveys across Indonesia. We've done this for over 20 years, and the insights are fascinating. Today, we look at the leading issues facing Indonesia for the newly elected Indonesian President Prabowo to deal with. Indonesians were asked, which 3 issues are the most important to you? And today, we compare the main issues President Prabowo faces in his first 6 months versus those of his predecessor, President Jokowi, at the same period. The big difference is the rise in cost of living. Nearly half of all Indonesians, 44%, now say that keeping day-to-day living costs down is an important issue. That's 10% higher than Jokowi faced when he was elected. Fighting corruption is mentioned by 41% of Indonesians, as one of their top 3 priorities, unchanged from a decade ago, indicating just what a big issue this remains for many people in Indonesia. Unemployment and economic management are more important to Indonesians now than 10 years ago. Reducing unemployment is now mentioned by 31%, up 7% compared to 10 years ago. And managing the economy is also mentioned by 31%, up 6% compared to 10 years ago. Some issues are relatively less important compared to a decade ago. Improving education is now mentioned by 24% of Indonesians, down 8%. Improving health services and hospitals and open and honest government are both mentioned by 14% of Indonesians and are both down 5% compared to early 2015. Over the next few months, Roy Morgan will be looking more closely at how our Indonesian neighbours are feeling about a range of issues, including happiness, holidays, finance, and motorcycles. And that's a wrap. Thanks for your interest in Roy Morgan's latest results. For more detail on the topics covered in this video, head to the Roy Morgan website. And I'll be back next week to bring you the latest data on consumer confidence, inflation expectations, and other key indicators. Thanks for listening.